pledge and a prayer. You'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing. Lord, we thank you for this evening, the time that we have to lead this district and make decisions for the betterment of our staff and our students. We ask for your wisdom and your guidance tonight as we proceed, and we thank you for the blessing of protection and safety that you've given to everyone on this campus so far this year. Continue to watch after and lead us all. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you, and we will call our meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda tonight are some Cobra Pride Awards, and we have some ladies here from the village that want to come up and tell us about it. So, you will, ladies.
Okay. Where do you want us? Right about
yeah, go ahead and step over here on this side.
We'll take a photo right over here on this side when we're done. So we'll have,
right there. That's
yeah,
right
that's
there.
good.
You bet.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yes, and then
Do you want us to spell something?
Yeah, there will be a YMCA.
it would be. And on behalf of HSB Rotary and the Village Walk for Cancer Research, I just want to share the story. And I'm going to do the Rotary story, and Clara's going to do the walk story. And Coach Devery came and did a presentation for our Rotary. And when he did, it was all about his students doing the application for the Hot Springs Village and how easy it was going to be. And then we started talking about drones, and then all of a sudden the drone discussion got into, oh yeah, we can do this, and we're going to do, I think, what was the project you were doing in Hot Springs? It was going to be going into the underground tunnels, if I remember. And then all of a sudden, light bulb, we need a drone for the Village Walk for Cancer Research. And that was the plea that we made, and then we had an answer to our plea with Nathan. And Clara's going to share how that benefited the Village Walk for Cancer Research.
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to share that we held our 22nd annual Village Walk for Cancer Research this year, and we raised the most amount of money that we've ever raised, over $80,000. That's going to stay right here in Central Arkansas for cancer research and cancer-related projects. So having the ability to have a drone is phenomenal. Not only will it help us capture information about what we did this year and people that were on the trail, but we're really trying to create a history. We've done this for 22 years, and we just want to be able to use that information and grow what we're doing and project some of the images that we've done. We're trying to do this smarter and better because we hope to do it for 50 more years. Yeah, so we're thankful to Nathan for that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So we have a little presentation for Nathan.
So Nathan, we really would like you to come up here because I would like to read your certificate of participation. You look so good, you look so nice. So Nathan, for capturing incredible drone footage at our annual 22nd Annual Village Walk for Cancer Research at the Balboa Pavilion on Saturday, September 30th, 2023, we appreciate your service. We thank you for making our walk even more memorial. So, there you go, sir.
Good job.
So we probably should have you in the middle. Yep.
Okay. And for the partnership that you created in this, we also have a Cobra Pride Award for you this evening, Nathan. It is a reflection of your service commitment, taking time on a Saturday to serve.
Early
and,
Saturday.
Also,
Early Saturday.
You know, demonstrate your skill set. Job well done.
Yeah.
11th grade?
We got him for another year.
Yes. So you know who you're going to call for the.
All right, we're going to put that so we can show
Yeah,
them for
very
you.
good. Okay. All right.
You can go talk on three. 1, 2, 3. Then we're gonna get one more. Get one.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you all, ladies. Thank you. Thank you.
I love seeing what our East students are up to, so that was a great presentation.
Okay. All right. Moving into our consent agenda, the board has had an opportunity to look over the items on the consent agenda. If there are no questions, those will be considered approved by unanimous consent. And we will move into the superintendent's update. First up, we have our elementary building report. And, oh, there she is in the back. I was like, I know I saw Miss Curry here. She's here somewhere. It's all yours, Miss Curry.
Okay, we have had a really good couple months. You can see that our data from in our reading iStation scores and our math is trending upward, so we're seeing quite a bit of growth in each grade level. Mr. Campbell asked us to put that in these reports for you guys, so we have a really nice colored graph that I thought would you might be able to read pretty well, but it's showing that we're trending upward out of the red into the green, so that is really good news. Teachers are working hard on that. Our instructional focus for the really since school has started, but pretty heavily the last couple months, we're still diving into our CKLA literacy units with building rich vocabulary. We're spending a lot of time collaborating with all of our teams, interventionists and special ed, to improve our growth. We have our staff attendance rates really good, 99% there, and our student attendance rate trending pretty much like they do every month. Discipline, pretty normal compared to last month's as well. We did have a really good special education meeting today. We had a SPED team meeting to kind of shore up some of our processes and procedures with special ed and general ed, so we're really excited about that. Coming up, we have our RTI round 2 meeting the next 2 days, where we look at all of our student data and then divide those WIN groups and then determine if any of those students have needs that need to be met outside of the classroom. Also, we have Thanksgiving kindergarten feast at Walnut Valley Church on Wednesday. If anyone wants to join us, that's always a really awesome time for our parents. Usually we have probably almost 100% of parents out of kindergarten that come to that, so it's a really neat thing that they do for us. We also have a couple other parent activities this week. Third grade parent program on Wednesday as well, and then on 4th grade we have a class giving involvement activity. And I believe Sarah's not here tonight, so.
Okay.
Mrs. Curry,
Yes.
Wednesdays at 11:15, about what time you think?
They're 11 o'clock, yes.
11 o'clock?
Is when the lunch will start.
That'd be a great opportunity to go out, see some parents, and also it's a very special event, so you're welcome to
Yes.
attend as a board member if they so choose.
Thank you for that invite. That would be fun. All right.
Wednesday at 11.
Yes, yes, sir.
11 o'clock? Okay. 11 o'clock would be at Walnut Valley. So,
Yes.
board, if y'all want to go. All right. Thank you for that update, Ms. Curry. And we will move over to Ms. Inman's report on the middle school.
Okay, so we are presenting data as well. So we took initial placement tests at the beginning of the year, and so that gave us indicators of where our students were, and this is going to kind of show you the growth that they have been experiencing. So you can see just in the past 9 weeks, we have students that have grown anywhere from 3 months to up to 8 months worth of learning in 9 weeks. And so for some of them that might not seem like a very big deal, but you guys are super familiar with my RTI process, so you know we only see some of those students 1 day a week. So to only see them 1 day a week, to see that kind of growth is really makes us really happy. And so we have that. And if you scroll down to, or did you start at the bottom? Scroll up. Yeah, oop, you went too far. So just to kind of support a little bit more of what we're doing, I wanted to give you our initial placement scores, so you can see, yes, we have our benchmark data, but when our students entered into our building at the very 1st of August, you can see in math, language, and foundational reading where our average scores were for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So our highest score total in the entire building is a 5.4 level. So this tells us overall we still have a lot of work to do in our building, and so that's what we're really spending our time focusing on and working with our teachers. We have a lot of data to support that we still have a long way to go. So we're aware and we are working really hard. And this just kind of shows you how many skills are completed weekly through RTI. So we're tracking all of that, like 6,500 skills completed each week. That's pretty good. So.
But since we do have some parents here, it's a great opportunity to kind of talk about Tier 1 instruction, which is what takes place for every child in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and then the layered levels of support. So, to ensure that a guaranteed viable curriculum exists.
Yes. So we're doing that. We have that in small group setting. We have that in where we're pushing into the classroom. We're pulling out of the classroom. And we also have our paraprofessionals that are working with the students on individual needs. So we do definitely have all 3 tiers of instruction that are taking place on a daily basis, not just once a month. So,
But if you're in Tier 3 engagement of RTI, it doesn't exempt you from participating and seeing and hearing the lesson as Tier 1
correct.
is presented
Yep.
to the whole
They
group.
do not miss any core instruction. They never miss their traditional core instruction class. They're only pulled out of an elective option.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. So our attendance rates are definitely showing that cold and flu is alive and well in the middle school. We have had a lot of illness over the past month, so hopefully everyone can get well. But our referrals are still trending majorly down. The minor referrals that are identified, those are ones that are handled by the teacher in the classroom. So you can see we only had 19 referrals that took place in the office. So that's really nice. We haven't had any of those major incidents that you guys like to be reported on. So we're really happy. Our major offense is a cell phone. So we
I have a
can.
question. So when we see, a minor offense, give me an example
Of a minor?
of a minor. So we had 51 of them.
Yep, classroom disruption, talking, won't stay in their seat, didn't turn in their work, as assigned. So yeah, minor. If those minor offenses are repeated or happen in a pattern, then it becomes a major. So, but most of it's just horseplay, traditional, just being disruptive, running in the hall, those kind of things. Yeah.
What about, I see that you had 14 bus referrals
Mm-hmm.
this month, and you've only had 20 for the, seems like a lot.
It was a group that kind of got in trouble on the bus
Okay.
around Halloween treat time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it was a group
I was
affair.
wondering if it was like several at once.
Yeah, no, it was a group activity on a bus. Yeah. Happy Halloween.
Yes, too much sugar for sure.
So, but I did want to tell you, we are the Special Olympics. They did complete that, and so we did have 2 of our unified Special Olympics teams from the middle school take first place, and so I just wanted to share that. That is where our regular ed students join our special education students bowling, and they really love that together. So they're really excited to have 2 first place. But we've been working, we had our spelling bee, just had a great career speaker that came out from National Park to talk to our kids. And if you're hungry Friday, we are having our Thanksgiving potluck. You're more than welcome to join us.
Okay, so elementary on Wednesday.
You can eat free all week.
Middle school on Friday.
Yeah.
High school, I don't know who's doing it. Dan, you got a challenge in it.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that update. That's
You're
good
welcome.
information, very good information. And it just helps us stay in touch with what y'all have going on. Since I don't see Mr. J here, I'm assuming Danton, you're doing the update for us?
Danton's here, yes.
Yeah? Okay, Mr. Robertson, give us.
Sure, so just as an update on our building goals, looking at the continuing intervention program with 9th and 10th, we rolled out our Apex tutorials last week with our students. We had changed it up from using it Mentum last year. Feedback from the kids thus far is pretty positive. I think that speaks more to how much they disliked our previous software than how much they liked the new one now. And then we're still working with our juniors and seniors on ACT prep, making that available to them as well, but we're still rolling that out to the kids. And then at the bottom, the Atlas exemplars and classroom assessments. We're still working with our teachers and letting them get practice in the classroom tool. What they can do is create questions in this tool and then let the students get used to the software that they're using, but it's still new to everybody, so they're still getting to dig around in it. Kind of echoing the middle school, our attendance rate took a little bit of a dip. Deer season coming up, and so kids were getting ready for that. Let's see, we had 34 students with perfect attendance for the first 9 weeks. We had an award ceremony and recognized that. That's a pretty significant achievement for them. So getting into the discipline referrals, you'll notice 53 out of the 109 for the year. That's pretty on pace with October. October is our most preferred month of the school year. And so you get warned in education classes about Halloween and Valentine's Day. And so that's holding pretty steady there. And no bus referrals this year. So we've got our NWE MAP scores here as well. This is just our initial testing that we did. We're just going to continue doing our NWEA testing and see how it aligns with Atlas in the spring. In the meantime, we're still waiting to get their interim assessments created. We should be able to use those next year in place of our NWEA testing potentially, but these are just the initial assessments that we have. Any questions about that? So we've got a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of these we already completed. Again, we want to congratulate the Lady Cobra volleyball team. They made it to the state semifinals. It was a cool experience for all of us. We're very proud of them. The Cobra band qualified for state marching contest. They got second division, so they're always firing on all cylinders this time of year, so they're fun to watch. Ms. Keys and others completed the college hop for juniors. They went up to Conway and toured UCA, Hendrix, and CBC. Did you have anything to add there? I think she's going to speak later. She'll have some more information with that as well. We just tipped off the basketball season, so we're excited to see how we do this year. And we have all of that good stuff coming up. And then down at the bottom, congratulations to Caleb Herring, Hot Springs National Park Rotary guest for October.
No, I didn't. I hadn't. Normally I'm on it, you know.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson.
They're haters.
Good update. Yeah,
Hey, I applaud him.
yeah. Okay, let's just do a quick glance at the finances for the month. Probably.
You've had an opportunity to review them. You might look at the secondary page. Mr. Campbell, the fund balance is existing, but as we trend revenue reporting and where we're at with the overall expenditures at this time, there's really nothing that's trending against what we would typically be at this time of the year. We do have kind of an update on the financial side. Ms. Bowen working in conjunction with our auditor. We should have our audit prepared for approval next month, which is at least 2 to 3 months in comparison to where we've been. We actually should have it on the board agenda next month. So you have a chance to see that as well.
Nice. Good work, Tanya. I know she's watching. All right. So there is, we just wanted to go over this for the public who may not be aware that with the Arkansas Learns Act and the revocation of fair teacher dismissal, there's a policy that deals with contract renewals, which will be coming up in the spring, and terminations. So I think, Dr. Murphy, you can just speak to the policy in general and what has changed.
Yeah. One, we try to provide that for everyone to read the detail within the language. In meeting with PPC, it's really about current year in the element of determination, and renewals would be for the upcoming year. So we will need to, for our bookkeeper to generate contracts moving into next year, employee names must be presented and approved at the Board of Education level. In the discussions with our attorney, both with ASBA and local attorney, along with working with colleagues and the approach to use, we anticipate to bring different lists to the Board of Education for approval in different months. Typically, you need to give consideration to renewal of your administrators probably no later than February. Probably your teachers would be recommended no later than April. Classified staff, a list coming to you no later than May in conjunction for the upcoming year. When you approve those lists, it then authorizes Tanya to generate contracts. Under the old law, if notice was not provided, there was an automatic renewal that took place and board action did not have to occur. So annually now, the board will vote to authorize contracts of everyone in the school district on an annual basis. You'll authorize your new superintendent that you employ in a different contract, but every other individual, whether classified or certified, principal or teacher or para, would be renewed on an annual basis. So that is the renewal side.
So give me an example, come February, April, or whatever, if someone's not on that list.
If they're not on that list, we would verbally have a discussion with that individual. There is no right to a hearing under the new law. The contract would not be offered for the following year. There would be no opportunity for a hearing, and the employee would look for employment elsewhere.
Substantial change to the law, where, before it was automatic renewal unless you specifically, did a non-renewal. And in this case, everybody renews.
Technically,
So even tenured teachers, when I read this,
there is no, everybody's a teacher. In the event of seniority, the first piece that plays in, if you find two teachers of equal ability, then and only then would seniority play into the selection of those teachers. You're no longer required to, if you are having, say, class sizes are down, you're needing to reduce by 2 teachers, you no longer look at seniority as the sole element in who you place in the classroom. So that's one component. The other, there is a shall not in the element of a recommendation for any formalized or engaged sexual misconduct, so the superintendent shall not make any recommendation of the renewal of that employee. And then the third is following the superintendent's recommendation for renewal and approval by the board, then we initiate the contract. But the terminology of a non-renewal, as Mr. George asked the question, that no longer really exists. It's only a renewal. Because technically at this point in time, the number of people employed in the district actually is no one for next year.
Until contracts are issued.
Until contracts are issued.
You say that, but,
We have to have school.
right, of course, and we have, we have no reason to believe that you're gonna come to us with a list of missing 50 names or something. There's no reason to even think that. I mean,
No.
that's not gonna happen. So it's gonna be pretty much business as usual.
and on
It's
the
just a change in the way they,
On the renewal side, the continuation of conversations and the dialogue between the employees, the teams, and the administrators continues. Summative evaluations continue. Formal evaluations continue. None of those elements, the renewal it's different than what it was.
yes.
All the other components of the teacher evaluation system still exist as though they have in the past. So it's kind of the formalization of reemployment is where you look at the renewal aspect. The other thing that at this evening's meeting we will actually go through is in prior law, an individual employee has an option of conducting a hearing in private or in public with the Board of Education upon the termination of a contract. And so upon notice, an individual has 10 days to have the opportunity to have a hearing before the Board of Education in public. It's no longer a right of the employee to conduct that hearing in private. If the employee chooses not to attend the hearing, then the Board of Education can go in and deliberate in executive session. But from a perspective of an employee challenging the recommendation to terminate, it must be done in public. There's no opportunity anymore to be able to deliberate that in private. So that's a big change from our prior format and law that we have as well. But I wanted to share that we will be bringing these individual lists to you in the spring of the year. And then, the other thing that we have to renew on an annual basis now is any extra duties. None of that kind of carries forward, so we'll have to bring a list forward as it relates to extra duties as well. And that would be each and every coaching position, stipend, all of those things have to be done on an annual basis. Here again, to authorize and execute the additional pay in the contract.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments regarding either side of the policy? As you can see, it's now a one-page policy, and the second page is the reflection of the legal references. So it went from about a 9-page policy to a 1-page policy on renewal and termination.
Okay, that district academic goal, next item on our agenda, is one that we discussed last month. It's an expansion of the goals that we set. This is sort of an expansion of goal number 1. So it's got more teeth to it.
Basically what we've done is we've always set an academic goal similar and centered around reading proficiency and reading improvement. And what we have found as a governance structure, we needed greater detail to be delivered because, quite frankly, at this point in time, we are not comfortable with the amount of progress we're making as a governance structure, as a state, in the area of proficiency with reading. And so to continue that, we're looking at all elements that we view that would be reflective of, if you will, helping us more aggressively move the needle in reading proficiency. And so we've tried to highlight and describe and discuss a lot about with our administrators and everyone to ensure that every child is exposed to grade level material. Regardless of their, if you will, shortcomings, they need to be exposed to grade level material, and that is that guaranteed viable curriculum, coinciding that, establishing a reporting process that is more aligned with the expectations so parents truly understand what their child does and does not know, and what they, know how to perform in a way where maybe you think they're doing well. I've had conversations during my career on numerous occasions. I thought they were doing well, and all of a sudden they're failing.
Right.
And so I just didn't know. And so standards-based reporting, trying to figure out how to more accurately articulate that into the grading system. Along with that is the practice, if you will, and the responsibilities of educators. The work that we're trying to perform, I wouldn't mislead anyone, we're asking our teachers to do a lot.
Absolutely.
And we're at a point in time where this state is expecting more than any other time that we have signed up for the work with the LEARNS Act. So with that, we feel like these action steps are things that we want to keep in front of our community, because inherently we want to accurately reflect your child's ability. And it may not be the same number of children on the A list or on the B list as an end result, but we're ensuring that the kids are performing to the best of their ability based on how we assess them. And I think our community needs to hear that, parents, our teachers, because when we have those parent conversations, sometimes they go great and sometimes not so well, and oftentimes it's a reflection of either I didn't know or I thought my child was stronger in this given area. So we really want to guide progress, if you will, and get all of our kids, every one of them, to reach their fullest potential every day.
Absolutely.
So
And I
that's
love the
what
work
this
that's gone
goal
into
is
this.
reflecting, and it's really a reflection, to be honest with you. What I kept hearing and seeing is elements that we were conducting in buildings with teachers, with principals, with Mr. Campbell, the administrative team, and I asked him to further make that a reflection on paper, as I kind of alluded to last month. This is an academic roadmap as we move forward. There's no secret this board's engaging in a selection process to hire a new superintendent, and we want to allow them to have at least a roadmap of reflection as they take over this role.
Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate the work that our administrators and you have, and Mr. Campbell and all of you have collaboratively put in on this. It's
Just
very
trying
good
to keep
information.
it in front of the community so that we can continue to strive to improve student learning.
Absolutely. Thank you for that information.
Sure.
Hayden, we're going to turn it over to you. I know you've got a little bit of information for us.
Yeah, so very quickly, we had a lot of conversation with Hill and Cox. We are kind of looking around just the average cost. You know, new metal building construction is going anywhere between $250 and $275. When we get into the plumbing aspect areas, like what we're wanting to do at the field house, that number goes up to around $350, a little bit more per square, depending on what we choose to do. We kind of have I would say kind of a too not to exceed number. We're looking at $475 right now. Next week, Dr. Murphy and I have a walkthrough with Hill and Cox and the architect that we're looking at using for 2 projects. We think there's room to get it 5%, possibly 10% lower than that as a whole. And so that's next week. We're kind of going to look at 2 options, you know, really just address the must-haves, our highest recommendations, bring that back to you, and then kind of the full blueprint of everything. That everything would be a new 400 amp service. You know, right now we cannot add any new AC units. So part of this reno was new AC, new washer and dryers, and we could probably add those washer and dryers, but it's just, you're getting there so close. So,
So for everyone listening, you're talking about the field house, and you're talking about the electrical setup in that field house is similar to a 200 amp circuit in a home.
Correct. We're literally running a 200 amp residential service for the field house right now.
So we've kind of outgrown the space by building onto both ends of it. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to need an upgrade.
So last board meeting, we had a really good overview
Yes.
of what would be added.
Yes.
A few changes have been made since then. At this point, once we get a local architect involved, that is going to cost us a little bit of funds. Just have the architect on site just to go through and really render everything out for us and just really look at pros and cons. And like I said, a few little additions we're going to be added. A network rack, we can relocate that rack on the shelf right and walk in on the left-hand side would be relocated, and just a few little odd ends.
So 2 things in summary. We're trying to get to a final number, but I've asked Hayden to go ahead and give you a detailed written list. So we're going to get a written list to give to you of everything that entails the project. We kind of viewed it in terms of on the surface, but a lot of what's been conveyed has been conveyed verbally. This is a very expensive project, and you need to know exactly what you're getting, because there may be some things that you want us to take off the list.
Right.
And so if you have everything in there on writing, then we can try to allocate, but there's several of those things in the element of relocation. It's all a package deal. I mean, if you're moving urinals, you're doing all the plumbing work, you're new, everything, there's not much you can cut. But we'll try to have that. If this is something that is pursued, it is something we're going to try to do outside of the summer season. We think we can save some money in the context of the work. It might displace, where we dress, and we may have to use the weight room more than what we have in the past, and as we move closer towards the spring season, because we're at November. So if this project, I want you guys to see that number. If it's off the table at this point, then we need to know that. But we'd like to bring you some additional information, and since we can get an update, we'll get it to you even prior to the next board meeting.
Where's
Any question?
Where's the architect? We're not changing anything structurally, right?
we have to have one legally for.
Yes.
For,
Mhm.
yeah, just for code for the state.
Code within the space, and we also, even though we don't receive any facilities money, we still have to report facilities of this magnitude and have them approved by the State Department of Education on the Facilities Division, and it's a requirement at that level.
Yes.
And it's really just them signing off on the moneymaker.
Right.
That's a stand.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
I'd say
Anything
really-
else you
I'd say
want to highlight?
really the next 2 to 2.5 weeks, we're gonna really start having some pretty solid numbers. Like I said, we're meeting next Tuesday, and we're gonna put it out for bid. Now, the bid's not gonna be just received. This bid is to really lock down some hard numbers, you know, masonry, plumbers, get actual bids on this project. Like I said, we're expecting at least a 5%, you know, rate on that work could drop a little bit.
Okay.
Part of our walkthrough on next Tuesday is gonna be also for that 50 by 50 with McHenry. That whole project by itself is moving forward pretty quick. That permit has been submitted. We've been in close workings with the state, specifically the mining division with the state, and looking really good. McHenry should be coming out tomorrow to get a signature that we're needing, part of the last board meeting we had where we kind of approved the lease agreement between both parties. Get some notarized there and a few more paper documents. But I would hope by the end of this month, if everything goes well, we have that permit. So.
Is it realistic by, they would want to start some form of excavation and rock crushing next, like May or June?
I would say that's pretty realistic. I talked to Mike this morning, and they're really eager to get all the documents signed and get the ball rolling. So I think they're really starting to round the space of the current query.
Okay.
And that would be on the 20 acres that's not occupied at this point behind the press box,
Correct.
with the intent to level that space. Okay, right.
All right. And our monthly safety checklist. Cindy's wondering who left the door open.
Oh, just wait, I had to.
And this is kind of, we have some students here, we check on a monthly basis to make sure that everything is safe. So sometimes when you leave the room, you gotta knock to get back in. That's for everyone's safety. So we always have to shut our doors when we leave the rooms or whenever we're in our rooms. And we check on a monthly basis and report it to the board.
Other than the unlocked doors, though, everything looks good.
Just 7 of them.
Just 7.
Probably the most.
Right? But we do like seeing that. We like to just see, and that's really just a snapshot, right? He just goes, that's
One time,
one day, he just picks a
unannounced.
random unannounced day during the month.
Right. Yeah, we randomize it.
Yeah, yeah, good. All right, thank you, Hayden. Mr. Campbell, we have one presentation under your department area.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Keys is going to visit with you today on test optional. As she prepares for that, I did want to mention to you, you may have seen on Facebook, we had a couple of incidences with substitutes, issues, and those substitutes, as you know, are contracted employees for somebody else.
Right.
And so those substitutes have been removed from our list for all of our buildings, and we have notified their employer of the issues that we have here on campus, so they
Okay.
will not be back.
Thank you for that
Yes.
update.
Ms. Keys?
Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for letting me speak to you today. For those of you who don't know, I'm Carmen Keys. This is my 16th year to work at Fountain Lake as the high school counselor. I asked to make this presentation after watching the report to the public last month, and I've been talking to our students about what test optional really means for the past 4 years. But I really need to get this message out to our community, and I need your help to spread the correct information. I'm going to be as brief as possible, and then I'll try to answer any questions you might have at the end. I do want to forewarn you that some of these slides look a little messy because they are actual screenshots straight from colleges. In the spring and summer of 2020, students couldn't take a college placement test due to COVID. Many colleges responded by eliminating the requirement for a certain test score to gain admittance. Schools called it test optional. It sounds great to our students and to some of their parents if they're struggling with a high score on the ACT or making a high score on the ACT or other tests. But there is some fine print that the colleges aren't telling them that needs to be examined. As we begin, I want you to look at this slide to demonstrate that it is a very real problem for us. On November 2nd, we took the entire 11th grade class to Conway to tour 3 types of colleges. After the field trip, I sent a survey to all the kids, and you can see why I was concerned. One of the kids' takeaways is that UCA says they don't need an ACT. The college reps are salespeople, and they know what their audience wants to hear. But like most salespeople, they aren't telling the entire story. Next slide, please. Let's start with Hendrix. It's a highly selective school in Conway, Arkansas. Hendrix is the first school in Arkansas that advertised that they were going to go test optional. If we look at their website closely, you will see that there is more to it than just skipping out on taking a test. Students who select the test optional entry will take a placement exam. This is just another form of the ACT, like the AccuPlacer. Their score on this exam determines their placement in the core classes that are required by all degrees, like college comp or college algebra. If students do not score high enough on the placement test, they are enrolled in remedial classes that do not count toward the degree, but they're still going to cost the student money. I would also add that some forms of financial aid do not pay for these courses. Next slide. Speaking of financial aid, let's talk about scholarships. Hendrix, like most private colleges, isn't as transparent as the public colleges, but here you can see from their own website that they do consider the ACT when awarding their scholarships. I have no proof from Hendrix website, but as we review the next 4 public colleges that we send most of our students to, you will see that a high ACT score gets higher amounts than the scholarships that are based solely on GPA. Okay, the next one is Arkansas Tech University. We'll go there. Still back up, right after Hendrix.
You went too far.
Yep.
It wasn't there.
It's the one that says entering freshman / new student.
Yeah.
So
Keep
go
going.
up.
Doesn't have a heading, go back further. Back. Whoa.
Right.
I think
One more.
That's UCA, keep going.
One
That's
Keep going.
UCA.
Right, one more from there.
One more.
Oh,
There you
right
go.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Arkansas Tech University admits students with their test scores, but only if their GPA is a 3.0 or higher. And even then, as you can see, students still must submit test scores for placement. And then the next slide. They're much more open about what they do consider. They state right on their website that if students are enrolled in remedial courses, those courses will not count toward their desired degree. UCA, we'll go to the next one, is the same. It has almost an identical admission policy. Like the others, they have a requirement for a placement test to enroll in college level classes. And the next one, UCA will allow students in some cases to take the remedial courses at the same time as a college course, but they're still going to be paying money for those remedial courses that again don't count towards their degree. These are the things that my college recruiters are not telling the kids that we're trying to make sure that they understand. All right, the next one. These are actual descriptions of the courses from UCA that I've been referencing. You can read right from their catalog that and their website that courses that the students must take and pay for will not count toward their degree. They call theirs transitional courses. Some of them call them foundations, others call them remedial. All right, the next one is National Park. Let's look at them. They're our local community college. National Park is the institution that awards college credit for the courses that we teach on our campus for juniors and seniors. In order for our students to enroll in these courses and receive college credit, National Park requires that they have a 19 in reading, and then a 19 in English for comp, a 21 in math for college algebra. The next slide shows a complete breakdown of what courses a student must take based on placement exam scores during their first year of college. In math, the student may even have to take more than one remedial course. For instance, if a student scores below a 16, they have to take a 3-hour math essentials course that they must pass before they can enroll in Foundations of Math, that they must pass before they can enroll in an actual college class. Neither course would count toward their degree. The next slide shows that English is similar. Student isn't allowed to enroll in Comp 1 without a 19 or a passing grade in the required remedial course. All right, the final college we're going to look at is Henderson. On their admissions page, they explain that even though students may choose to go test optional, they too require a placement test score to determine what courses a student will be allowed to take. You won't find Henderson's cutoff scores on their website, but our admissions representative did send me this. Let's go to the next one. A student must have a 19 in math to enroll in their quantitative lit class and a 20 to enroll in college algebra. If they don't have these scores, they must enroll in an additional review class that costs money but doesn't count towards the degree. And students who score below a 19 in reading on the ACT or a comparable score on another recognized test have to enroll in an academic reading, which again doesn't count towards their degree. All right, the next slide, let's look at their scholarships. Henderson has stopped requiring an ACT score for some of their academic scholarships. This has enabled them to give out a few more scholarships, but they're at a lower value than they were pre-COVID. But again, if you look, the highest academic scholarship requires an ACT score. Now, if you're comparing costs there, without the ACT, that GPA is $6,000 is the max you can get. And the next slide will show you that the tuition and fees that the ACT score of a 26 covers is worth $9,000. For the sake of time, to keep from boring you, I won't cover every school that we do send to, but I assure you they do all follow the same pattern. I can look them up and show you any school you would like. What concerns us most is that they are going to have to pay extra money on the place if they take that placement test and they don't score well enough by taking those remedials. But conversely, if they didn't take an ACT and they score well on the placement, they're not going to go back and award them scholarship money for that. So we want them to do well on the ACT while we have them here. All right, next one. Also is the Arkansas Challenge Scholarship. This is the lottery scholarship we've all heard of for so long. All they are requiring now is a 19 on the ACT. They no longer have the financial aid. There's no longer the 2 years of Spanish language. Just a 19 on the ACT, they can earn up to $14,000. And new this year, if you'll do the next slide, for those students who have financial need, if they can prove that, with the 19 on the ACT, they can also earn up to $2,500 a semester. That's $5,000 a year. With the Arkansas Challenge and this Challenge Plus, a student could get $34,000 just for a 19 on the ACT. Just for a 19. So we believe that the ACT is still very important. In one more slide. And we also agree, like you, that 4-year degrees aren't for every student, but there are some awards out there that an ACT score will help them to get a 2-year degree or a certificate in some of the programs that are out there. All right, the next slide. I know that's a lot of numbers and a crazy amount of information some of you didn't ask for, but the message we want to get across to our students is that everything we're trying to do for them is to open doors for more opportunities. Testing isn't going to go away because all these institutions, including the state of Arkansas, need and want a measuring tool to compare students in schools. Some students aren't going to do as well as others, we already know that, but we have to encourage students to do their very best to give themselves every opportunity that's available to them. I will tell you that after the November 2nd and I saw those results from that survey, I went in and talked to every 11th grade class and gave them the same slideshow, and many of the kids were unaware and they started realizing, hey, maybe there is some significance to it. Maybe the teachers really do have my best interest more so than the recruiters from the college. So I am hoping for a very positive impact, but if I can get our community involved and them to understand, I think that's going to be even more of an impact to our students. So I would like to say thank you all for letting me speak to you tonight and helping me spread this information. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time or later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's a lot of great information, Ms. Keys. Thank you for putting it all together and bringing it to us. It's like, whew, that's done. No, it was really good information. And, you know, honestly, it should encourage students to want to do better on the ACT. I mean, I know they want to, some of them don't want to even test at all, but, you know, still, you know, do your very best, because the higher that number, I mean, you just look at those things. Absolutely. I didn't realize remedial and transitional courses were so prevalent now at all the universities, so.
85% of high school graduates that attend a four-year university have to take a remedial course in math or legally English.
Wow.
In Arkansas.
And like you said, it's money you spend that doesn't count toward your final degree. So, very good information. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Campbell, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Before we move into new business, I want to update the public on our superintendent selection search process and our timeline. The board opened up the application process a few weeks back. We've been collecting resumes and applications, for about 3 weeks. We currently have 23 applicants. I believe there are 7 from out of state. The remainder are in Arkansas. It's a mix of men, women, superintendents, principals. There's just a mix of people. But anyway, we do have 23 candidates. The board is meeting after this meeting tonight. We will be going into executive session to discuss or have our first group look at the candidates. We will be screening them to decide the vetting process that we're going to use. And then starting tomorrow or the next day, we're going to start vetting these candidates. So we'll be contacting references, talking to people. That will go on for about 3 weeks. And we will reconvene on December 4th to look at all of our vetting notes, start talking about really narrowing the list of candidates that we want to interview. We do have December 11th. That's the Monday afterwards, so 2 Mondays in a row we've set aside for meetings. If we need to continue talking about our vetting process and some of our notes, but hopefully after the 11th, for sure, we will have a list narrowed to who we would like to interview. And because I've communicated with every applicant this timeline, we are not going to get into the craziness that is late December with holidays, so we are not going to interview candidates until the week of January 8th when school comes back, with the idea that we will have our selection made by January 15th. That is our hope. Could go a little longer. But I will notify all the candidates, yay or nay, before we go on holiday break as to whether they are moving ahead in the interview process or not. And we will actually set those interview appointments for the week of January 8th. So that's where the board is right now. We will be doing a whole lot of work between now and the week of January 8th. So, and applicants that come in even after tonight, I mean, we're going to talk about the 23 we have now, but, we had 1 come in today, we had 1 or 2 yesterday, so they're still coming in. So there will be some more, and we will just add them to that list of candidates that we're vetting. So that's where your board is in that process. We hope that we've got some great candidates in this list that will be able to follow in Dr. Murphy's footsteps, and you've paved the way with some things you talked about tonight. So we're excited about the process. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and we appreciate the patience of the public as we go through that. Board members, y'all have anything to add about that process? Okay, so we are going to move into new business, and Brian, you have a motion for us.
Motion to approve the SSC contract amendment increase the amount of $26,497.05 effective November 13th, 2023.
Okay, so we'll open it up for discussion. We did talk about this last month with the retirement of our in-house person. We're now going to hire someone through SSC to take that person's place.
Correct.
And we have already been billed for the months because the contract renewal happens on July 1st. So we've already been billed for July, August, September, October.
Correct.
The total amount that it will impact the contract will be $26,497.05 on an annual basis. We will not be billed that much. We will just be, it'll be 1/12 of it next month and 1/12 of it next month. So there was a little confusion last month as we talked about it, the impact to the overall contract. But the way it's written, and you can see it in the contract if you click the link. But anyway, so it's just being billed on an as-you-go basis, basically. Do y'all have any questions for Dr. Murphy? We kind of hashed over it
Did an
last night.
outstanding job explaining that.
Thank you. Only because I had that whole conversation earlier today, asking how that was gonna work. But anyway, any other questions, board members? So the motion, excuse me, is to approve the SSC contract amendment increase in the amount of $26,497.05 effective November 13th, 2023. All in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. That motion is carried 5-0. And we have another motion.
Motion to accept the resignation of Colby Salisbury as bus mechanic effective November 3rd, 2023.
Okay. Sad to see that happen, but do y'all have any questions? I think I've seen you've got an application process out there for a bus mechanic.
Yeah, looking to hire again.
Yeah, okay. If there are no questions, the motion is to accept the resignation of Colby Salisbury as bus mechanic effective November 3rd, 2023. All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed. That motion is carried 5-0. And we have another motion.
A motion to terminate the employment contract between the Fountain Lake School District and Megan Carbon, classroom teacher, effective November 13th, 2023.
Okay. So this gets into that new territory that we were talking about earlier with the LEARNS Act. This previously would have been handled in a different manner. But so what we are going to do first is, Mr. Campbell, are you going to be, is it your, okay. So Mr. Campbell will have the opportunity to present, just for the board's sake of knowing, this will be like a hearing like you would have in a courtroom. So both sides will be allowed to present their sides to it, and then the board will vote, or we will be able to adjourn to deliberate if we need to.
So a couple of formalities that we need to be thinking about. One, there's not been any prior information provided to the Board of Education before tonight's public hearing. Megan Tarbin is present, therefore we're having the meeting in public session. Mr. Campbell's going to present the evidence. She's going to have the latitude to present a rebuttal on any of the evidence mentioned. I'll provide some closing comments, at which point in time the board can either adjourn or call for a motion for us to vote in terms of that. So that's kind of the formalities of this evening. I tried to convey the formalities prior to the meeting, but the board at this point is seeking to hear this information for the first time tonight, along with the audience. So, Mr. Campbell?
I have just shared with you all the link for the timeline of communication
In our email?
in your email, your Google Drive, one or the other.
Did you attach it?
No.
Yeah, it took a minute to pop up, but you should have it.
Okay.
Just refresh.
Is that what this is?
No, yeah, this is different.
Okay, there we go.
What you handed out was the letter of notice that I provided. Is that what you've
Yes,
given
sir.
her and to the board?
As required by the policy, this is the letter that we gave to Ms. Tarvin with the number of paragraphs that's described in the policy, explaining why we were at this place. So, as documented in the communication timeline that you've just received, we have come to this point of recommending the termination of employment between the Fountain Lake School District and Ms. Megan Tarvin, classroom teacher. For more than 4 years, the elementary school principal, assistant principal, and lead teacher have identified and worked to strengthen Ms. Tarvin's areas of deficiency. Focus areas have included deficiencies in instruction, in upholding professional responsibilities, and in appropriate response to student behavior. Supports have been put in place in both the classroom and through professional development. A grade level reassignment has taken place, and personal growth plans and assigned job improvement targets have been developed. Due to either Ms. Tarvin's unwillingness or inability to comply and adhere to policy, standards, and expectations, immediate termination of the contract is our recommendation. Specifically, Ms. Tarvin has violated the following policies and standards of ethics. Fountain Lake School District Personnel Policy 3.17, insubordination, meaning the willful disregard of a supervisor's instruction or the refusal to obey a lawful order from a supervisor. Standard 2 of the Code of Ethics of the Arkansas Educators requires that an educator maintains competence regarding his or her professional practice, inclusive of professional and ethical behavior, skills, knowledge, dispositions, and responsibilities related to his or her organizational position. This includes maintaining professionalism in all communications with parents and employees. Fountain Lake School District Personnel Policy 3.45, which is the licensed personnel social networking and ethics, which clearly states whether permitted or not specifically forbidden by policy or when expressed in an adult-to-adult, face-to-face context, what in other mediums of expression could remain private opinions, including likes or comments that endorse or support the message or speech of another person, when expressed by staff on social media website, have the potential to be disseminated far beyond the speaker's desire or intention. This could undermine the public's perception of the individual's fitness to educate students, thus undermining the teacher's effectiveness. In this way, the expression and publication of such opinions could potentially lead to disciplinary action being taken against the staff member up to and including termination or non-renewal of the contract of employment. Staff are reminded that the same relationship, exchange, interaction, information, and behavior that would be unacceptable in a non-technological medium is unacceptable when done through the use of technology. In fact, due to the vastly increased potential audience that digital dissemination presents, extra caution must be exercised by staff to ensure that they don't cross the line of acceptability. A good rule of thumb for staff is to use, if I wouldn't say it in class, don't say it online. Coupling a failure to advance our practice in the classroom with the poor judgment associated with an inappropriate Facebook post, trust in Ms. Tarvin's professionalism has been further eroded and the educational environment has been disrupted. With the lead teacher working side by side with Ms. Tarvin, with Ms. Curry's efforts to provide research-based strategies for student interactions, and with warnings and improvement plans that have required compliance to academic and professional expectations, Ms. Tarvin has at times shown improvement. However, the same areas of concern quickly reemerge, restarting the cycle. We owe it to our students to end that cycle. I realize that the termination of the employment contract is disappointing and has financial and professional implications for Ms. Tarvin, and I am not unsympathetic to her situation. Unfortunately, it is Ms. Tarvin's actions and inactions that have brought us to this point. By policy, Ms. Tarvin has the due process right to address this board in terms of these violations. Ms. Tarvin is going to give you all sorts of reasons why she was unable to comply with these directives. The documentation included in the timeline of communication shows that the elementary administration provided all of the tools and support needed for her to effectively do her job. Again, unfortunately, Ms. Tarvin did not follow through. As a side note, if the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act were still in effect, you have evidence in the timeline that indicates that the letter of that law has been met as well. The reasonable person test is often used to determine right or wrong in a given situation. What could a reasonable person be expected to do? It is not unreasonable to expect Ms. Tarvin to follow your policies, building expectations, or state ethical standards. Unfortunately, this has not been the case.
Okay, so, thank you for that information. I know the board was trying to read the timeline and listen and read at the same time because we're learning. So Ms. Tarvin is up for this is your opportunity, and I will remind you that we will only be addressing the things here, and we will do it in a professional manner, and we will do it, this is your chance to rebut the things that he has said. And we will not.
Do we go item by item, or how do
No,
we?
you feel free to tell us what you would like to tell us, and it cannot stray from the allegations that have been set forth in the termination motion. So we'll just stick to those things, okay?
I have papers for y'all.
Okay.
A lot of papers, sorry.
Sure, you can hand those out. I can't promise we can read that
I know
many that
there's
quickly,
a
but
lot. I wanted to make sure all of my bases are covered, so it's probably more than is necessary. But
so we would like to hear from you.
I come to the board today to present my information in regards to my recommendation for termination. I also come with the support of grown-ups of my current students and previous students that I've had before. Dr. Murphy made it very clear in our meetings that being terminated is not my best option. He said that this will destroy my career. He also told me that if the board was to not go with the recommendation, that my name would not be on the list for renewal next year. So I just wanted you all to know that I was in full understanding of that. I think it would be easier if we go, do y'all have like the list from the?
Does she have the same timeline?
Do you have the timeline?
I have this letter that he handed to you all in the beginning as well.
This letter?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any other timeline other than that.
Okay.
So you're dealing paragraph by paragraph, I believe.
Okay.
This
Okay.
mirrors, right? Because you were reading, okay.
Yes, we were reading two things.
Or I can just go down my list and how I have it stacked. Either way.
You do it the way you see fit.
Whatever you feel will best represent you in this given instance, it's at your discretion. You know, you and I discussed, you chose not to bring legal counsel. District did not bring forth legal counsel, so it's your opportunity. You can speak directly to the board.
Okay. The first thing in our pile is, was in reference to a PBIS referral that was brought up in my meeting with Dr. Murphy and Mr. Campbell. That I was requested to change them from a major to a minor. The email shows that there are 3 students listed that need to be changed from majors to minors. And then there was a follow-up email from Ms. Freeman asking about one of the same students that it was showing up on her end as a major referral still. I was out that day, and so I emailed her back saying that I would check it when I got back to school. I checked it on my app. None were listed for that student, so I texted her and let her know, and she said that she would delete the referral.
And so which part of that does this relate to?
I believe that, I would believe that would go with the insubordination, I'm guessing.
Okay, didn't know if that had been,
I
That
kind of
puts you-
set
okay,
up
go
my
ahead.
timeline based off of the meeting I had with Dr. Murphy and Mr. Campbell
Okay.
on Tuesday of last week.
okay.
So I kind of just went with the things that were listed
Gotcha.
and presented to me then.
So you made major referrals, they asked you to do, change
Change
them
them
to
to the
minor.
minor, yes.
And
I changed all of them. I guess one of them, teachers do not have the ability to edit or delete any referrals in the system. We have to go in, just copy it from the major referral and paste it into a minor referral. And then the major stays until admin deletes it.
So what you're saying here is that you changed them all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Carry on.
Next in the pile is my summative eval from last year. I was rated effective and highly effective in every area. Also, part of what was stated to me Tuesday was that I was continually not meeting goals. One of our goals was a building-wide team goal. And in all honesty, none of my team members are meeting this goal this year. And we are given till the end of the year to meet these PGP goals. So stating that I consistently fail to meet them when I have until the end of the year to meet them doesn't add up in numbering.
when is this evaluation from?
That was at the end of last school year, 2023, May 2023.
Is that,
And
I mean, can we confirm this is, I mean, I know, I mean, that you, okay.
And who conducted this?
Jennifer Freeman.
Okay. Just for reference, so we're all aware of how those things happen. Okay. So I see there's several pages there.
I printed off both the ratings and the comments that Ms. Freeman made upon observation of my lesson this day.
Can I go back? I mean, I want to be clear, because this is pretty serious.
Yes.
I don't know how we do this, was what she showed first, the form of insubordination we're working with, or was there something in the timeline?
Are you asking that this thing, what we're looking at now
Change of
is,
behavior, you're wanting to know if that was insubordinate in nature, is that
How-
what you're?
Well, she presented this email about that. Somebody said, is that the insubordination
no,
claim?
yeah, I don't
And
believe
somebody
so.
said yes.
I believe that you asked, and that was my assumption as to what that claim would be under, or what the insubordination claim would
I'm just trying to
refer
keep it all straight. No, you're fine. I want to make sure it's all clear.
And there was the issue with the number of grades that students had. There was
Right.
the issue with not being on track, and so not following those directions.
And it's not, I mean, we have two different things, so I'm trying to,
We want to,
Got three different.
yeah, we got three different things
And all
now.
of what Mr. Campbell just mentioned, we'll get to.
okay, carry on.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
You're fine. Admin started sitting in on our PLCs on September 19th. I had spoken to our lead teachers several times about how our team was not working collaboratively and we needed someone to step in and help. I don't have anything referencing that because they were just verbal conversations I had had with Ms. Fournier about how poorly our team was working together and how it was clashing. And Dr. Murphy had said in our meeting last week that he's heard talked about the fourth grade team and how they've not worked together very well at all this year. So 9/19 is when they started sitting in on those meetings. I have our PLC notes next in that pile.
Is that this?
Yes.
Okay.
A few pages in, there's a colored version, because I went back and some of the PLC documents were edited, to say that, it said it was observed that 3 teachers are on the same unit track for just words. Tarvin is behind multiple lessons due to not teaching this when required. The other 3 teachers are asked to pause so Tarvin can teach the units to get caught up with the rest of them. That was not stated in that meeting. A few pages in, like I said, the color copies, you can see where that was gone in and added in after my meeting with Ms. Curry and my meeting with Dr. Murphy. So that was gone in and changed after my termination meetings.
I don't guess I'm following.
What she's alluding to is that somebody has altered a document from its original form, is what she's indicating, correct?
Yes.
This is the,
That is our PLC notes. That is how it is in our team drive right now.
and then which one do we go?
There's a colored,
This?
yes, there's 2 or 3, 4
Yeah.
total, I think.
Yep.
Those show who and when they were edited and what edits were made to the PLC document. And the edits that were made were that quote that I just read to you from the notes.
And so who's the owner of the document? May I ask? If someone's able
No
to
idea.
edit it, is it equally shared among the team
Yes.
members? Okay, so
And it was-
anyone could edit the document.
It says that Katie Curry was the one that edited the document
Okay.
on November.
So where are you seeing the, I'm just trying to follow
That's
you,
fine.
okay?
I can come show you
So
if you
on the
like.
color copy,
Mhm.
there's something additional that's not on the black and white
Yes.
copy?
Would you like me to show you?
Okay,
And so what's the modification?
but it doesn't tell me what the modification is, does it?
Just says October 24th, 7:30.
So I'm looking at 9/25,
So yes,
7/25.
this was the original.
Right.
These were the 2 edits that were made on November 3rd.
What is the edit? Speak to the edit, please.
The edit is what I just read a second ago. It says, it was observed that 3 teachers are on the same unit track for just words. Tarvin is behind multiple lessons due to not teaching this when required. That was not on our original notes. That was
It's still on
added
the black and
on.
white.
Yes, because this
When
is
was
what
it
it
edited?
currently looks like. It was edited on November 3rd at 10:36 a.m.
Okay.
But you can't tell what was edited at
It
that
went
point?
from this to this.
But specifically, does it tell you the date that this was done?
Yes. This is our original.
But how do we know, I'm saying, okay,
And that's an open document that any member can go in and add notes to at any point in time.
Right.
Do go in, any person who's a part of that group can go
Right,
in and add
right.
notes.
okay.
For clarity, for continuity.
I mean, we
So
can
I'm
stop the team based on, we still are teaching. So, I mean, you want to speak to the editing,
So
the
I can,
accusation or not?
so in
Yeah, I wanna-
the discipline action letter from Ms. Curry, and so this, in your, what I handed you would be
This.
paragraph 1.
Okay, paragraph
It
1.
lists out the dates there, and you can see that,
So in paragraph 1, the accusation, so everyone that's here can hear at the 4th grade team meeting, you made a loud comment including I hate grading, September 28th, after the team meeting where when lessons were presented. So that's what you're kind of alluding to, right? Is the difference between September 28th and November the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just pointing out that excuse me, that was not brought up in that meeting. It is not in the agenda and is not in our PLC notes until after my termination.
And then October the 2nd, you were not prepared with your lesson for the literacy professional learning community, which may or may not have been reflected within those notes. And on October the 5th, you observed not teaching the agreed upon lesson determined by the PLC team concerning the math terminology, which was also noted that you were not teaching just words during the morning time, and instead having your students listen to Thriller Thursday on the radio instead. So those are all, and then on October the 10th, you were not using the district required curriculum tool, just words, in the team meeting, You were behind on the teaching units compared to your colleagues. In addition, it has been noted that you are behind in week 10 due to not teaching the curriculum that you were required to teach from the beginning of the school. You and I kind of talked about that, and that was reflective based on your students' abilities, but those are all part of the accusations in paragraph 1 that I sent to you. And I think, in all fairness, that needs to be read, not just handed to the board. So the due process, that's now been read, paragraph 1.
Okay. Backtracking a little bit too, on September 25th, I was told I was directed to be teaching Just Words, and that I was several units behind. That was what I just read on that sheet, sorry. Just Words is not paced in our pacing guide. There are no notes mentioning teaching Just Words in this planning meeting. We placed the topic in our parking lot, noted that we needed to discuss where to begin. Some recommended we start on vowel teams and work backwards, but a consensus was never reached, therefore placing it in the parking lots. PLC notes were edited, that's what I was just saying. Originally, Just Words was placed back into the parking lot. Teachers were not asked to pause on that day to allow me to catch up. You can see from the original PLC notes that there was no discussion or consensus. Once I received support from Ms. Fournier with the curriculum and how to utilize it, I talked the curriculum with Fidelity, which is a building level non-negotiable.
Okay, so you're stating, I'm just asking, this was edited since?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the response is, well, anybody could have done it?
And do it.
Okay.
They go in, it's an organic document that is not set in stone.
Okay.
But edited or not,
Right.
for PLC purposes, these other things happen that Dr. Murphy read.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
So they did happen?
I have mine in a timeline
Okay.
and not based on the paragraphs, how they're in that letter. 928 is one of the things that was listed on, I don't know what paragraph it's in on that letter. It is, okay. After the team meeting, Ms. Fournier and I have been working closely together to make my win time efficient. Students are required to complete 30 minutes of iStation Power Path per day. My group was a constant rotation due to students being pulled into different interventions and therapy services. Setting up groups was very difficult from day one because of this. Not only that, the original assessment we used to group students did not tell me clearly enough what those students needed. I used this time to pull different assessments to help pinpoint my students' needs. I used the past and Dibble's assessments to further identify what would best serve them. Ms. Fournier was in my classroom often, either observing, assisting with assessments, or helping me figure out how to make my groups functional. She also provided additional resources like a website where students could record themselves reading to improve their fluency. Once I determined where we could start, the materials I was provided were too high for this group. I reached out several times to our lead teacher and was told these things weren't available. I was finally given a lower level foundations book that I could use with my WIN students. I expressed my issues with this group to Ms. Pam also, and she was able to help me acquire more resources to help with my students. Ms. Holland also helped in providing the lower grades sight word list to use with my WIN groups. Next in that packet that I gave you is all of my documentation and communication with our lead teacher, asking for assistance and just kind of going back and forth as to how to best serve my students. And
Is that these or emails?
yes, there's
Okay.
emails and text messages. There's also some emails with resources that were provided for me. There's also a letter from an interventionist who was in my room daily and witnessed me pulling groups. So she wrote a letter attesting to that.
In support of you pulling groups?
Yes,
Okay.
that she witnessed it herself.
Is that Mrs. Holland?
Yes. I'm curious if the board would be willing to look into how long our observations were of me not doing groups, if it was transitions of my groups, if it was changing supplies out for new groups, transition of kids coming and going from their pooled services, if I was observed for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 20 minutes. All students are put on their Chromebooks during WIN until they reach their 30 minutes or when the teacher pulls them. Observing students during WIN time on their Chromebooks is not unusual.
Okay, so I have a question as we're looking through this. Is it your belief that you are performing at the same level as other teachers and that these accusations are false or overly, do you feel,
Are they stretched? Are they true?
Are they-
Is it
do you feel
because
like these are-
everybody's doing it? I mean.
do you feel like you are,
Targeted.
yeah, or
Have you
do you
been
think,
targeted by the administration is what you believe?
I'm asking, yes, what you believe.
I believe that the allegations are not true.
So you believe that your performance is on par with the rest of the group?
I do. Yes, ma'am.
And that they've gone through all of this documentation, which goes back to
Well,
2020
I don't even know
at
if she has
least.
that. That's what I was
I was told I
asking.
was not allowed access to that document.
Okay.
Well, the
And you may
timeline.
not be, but
But,
that's.
but you
were
know
a
you
party
have
involved
been,
because all the conversations were directly with you.
you,
Every one of these, let me ask this, so from September 2020, all of these,
I can't speak to anything
She-
before this year
she has
because
been,
this,
no,
oh, okay.
she has been notified, like, of something that was wrote up about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Those conversations have occurred either.
These conversations
For
that we don't have.
instance,
Okay.
for instance, in May of '21, a disciplinary action meeting for Tarvin with principal and assistant principal on addressing student behavior. And the outcome was that you were directed to handle student behaviors in a positive, professional, and ethical manner. So these are the kind of things we're seeing. The documentation that goes back to 2020, not just starting like on September of this year. So we're looking at a history of items where things have been discussed with you and you have been charged with improving a behavior or being professional or you know, the various things. And so I do hear what you're saying is that you believe that some of these are false. And anybody that's being accused and has their job on the line is, they're, you know, you're always going to think, well, I see that differently than they see it. So we're trying to hear both sides. But what we see is a history, and that's what we're hoping that you will address, you know. So we're going to let you continue.
So let me intervene and make a statement because of the rationale for the charges and the termination is based off of current action observed at the latest date. And so that's why you're seeing that in this
Yes.
document. However,
There
you
is
as a
a-
board are looking at a timeline and a pattern since the inception of employment.
Gotcha.
But every one of these back to September 2020, if she was to see this, this was discussed
Yes.
with her.
And you see the action plans.
Well, I know you don't, you can probably see it, but I mean, I just want, we want
So
to make sure
that's a
that.
valid question, but we employ supervisors for a reason, and so and I appreciate the questions to ensure that but the accuracy of what our administrators try to conduct on a daily basis while running a building, so the inference of the timeline is a timeline of occurrences. We'll be
Right.
very clear with that.
Right.
Well,
They're either conversations among multiple
let me
parties or
intervene. It's not a
emails.
question of accuracy of the admin. Nobody's questioning that, but are we looking at notes they made or discussions that were had with her? That's the question.
Okay, so in that question, it's the discussion that we need to
Okay.
be reflective of.
But you
So-
can click on the links with the date
In that timeline?
in the timeline, and you can see whatever's connected. It may
Okay.
be an email, it may be
Okay.
a document.
So if it has the blue
If it's
link.
blue, there's
Okay,
something.
that's
The
what-
supporting
That's what we
evidence.
need to know, the supporting.
We don't have access to that.
No, we don't
I
have.
just want to make sure that if I'm looking at something that a supervisor wrote up that that the person that
Was
wrote
written
about
up.
knows that she was written up.
Well, that was really the question.
Right.
Is it a write-up?
Right.
I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but was it just like an observation
Yeah.
note, or was
No.
this a write-up?
And if you look at the outcomes, there's usually some reference
Right, I
to,
see that.
like she was moved from first grade to fourth grade, or
Yeah.
she was, asked to move, or she was.
We don't have access.
This
Oh,
is
none of
really-
these are write-ups, right? They're just
These are
ongoing
just
feedback. I mean, you've been getting
timelines.
feedback. It's not like you've been in the dark. Okay.
Some of them may be disciplinary action, but a
To
lot
my
of it's
knowledge,
just time.
some of them are plans of improvement.
Is
So,
it possible to get access while we're still here to the links, or
So,
while you look at it, we can go on.
okay,
To my knowledge, I have only one disciplinary action before this year, and that was my second year. And it was due to a referral that I had put in, that I had originally put it into the opportunity room and then needed to be rolled over into a major referral.
so I don't know what you're calling a write-up, but I would think that in September, we're going back to this, but in September of '21, when y'all had a meeting to address unprofessional social media reaction to a parent comment, and then you put in place a plan on learning how to communicate with parents and students appropriately and professionally. So it was communicated to you with a start date of 9/28/21. So maybe that's not what you consider a write-up, but that is an actionable discipline,
Yes.
in our minds, that would be
No plan put
a
in place.
discipline. And that is,
So as a point of clarity, was the prior social media ever discussed?
On one occasion, yes.
Okay. Based on the incident at that time, there was a discussion centered around social media, so it did occur.
so there was one in '21, and then there was this really vile one from September 17th that I assume was this year. The back
Yes.
page,
Yes.
yeah. There is no excuse for that, and I'm not gonna talk about that right now, because I'm gonna let you finish, but.
You should be able to access all of those.
So, go ahead.
Okay.
So now we're we've asked our questions, but you carry on.
Okay. Let's see. In regards to not being prepared for a PLC meeting, notes in the PLC document of the standards that are matched to my lesson, plus the pages that were and were not required. I no longer have my notes on this lesson. The PLC in which we were assigned these lessons, I was out of school that day. I requested a Google Meet so that I did not miss any important information. So
that was what date?
October 2nd.
10/2, yes.
Okay.
That's reflecting the third part of paragraph
I'm
1.
not
Okay.
prepared.
Okay. All right.
So you move into chronologically October 5th? Is that what you're doing?
When you were not teaching just
Yes.
words, but listening.
Yes. I've got that split into two things. So to touch on the observed not teaching the agreed upon lesson determined by the PLC team concerning math terminology. I was not teaching the math terminology lessons because I was using this time to review the module we had just completed. I had some students that still weren't grasping the material. These lessons were only put in place because one of the other fourth grade teachers was behind in teaching that current module in their Eureka math curriculum. So those lessons on math terminology were only put in place to allow her time to catch up.
But was it agreed upon by your PLC team? It was an agreed upon lesson by the PLC team?
It was just that we would be reviewing math terminology.
Okay.
For our upcoming units. So we hadn't even started the new unit yet.
Gotcha. And that would normally happen during your morning timeframe?
No ma'am, math is in the afternoons.
Okay,
Can you tell us about this accusation about the radio playing?
Absolutely,
early
absolutely.
Thursday?
This morning I had my class, this morning in reference to the letter. I had my entire class plus Ms. Chapin's entire class in my classroom. Ms. Chapin had a personal situation arise and was unable to be at school this morning due to the lack of substitute teachers and the lack of support from administration. I took her class into my class for the morning. We listened to scary stories. In between the stories, students were independently reading. This also prompted some very detailed writing from my students when they were allowed to rewrite. Side note. But yes, we were listening to scary stories on the radio. When the stories were over, we turned it off. They were independent reading because that was not a feasible time to hold a lesson with nearly 50 students in my classroom.
As a side note, the administration did not know that the other teacher had not arrived at school. No one informed the office. We have all of our specialty team teachers who are available to start the day. And beyond that, they pull paraprofessionals to cover classrooms.
And this was during the literacy block?
This was our 8 to 8:40 block in the morning.
Okay.
And that portion of the radio show is usually over by 8:15 in the mornings.
Were you like disciplined or spoke to then about the radio?
Yes, sir. Nothing was said to me about it.
Was it isolated or multiple times?
That was it. That was, like I said, it was not a time where I could hold a functional lesson for that many kids at one time.
And that's paragraph 3 we're looking at?
No, we're still in paragraph 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're going forward in just a minute.
We're getting there.
So while we're in paragraph 1, address the October 10th, which was a few days later.
Okay, that was not using the district required curriculum tool, right?
Correct.
In our pacing note or PLC notes, there is no mention of when we would begin using Just Words. Just Words is a new curriculum to me, whereas the rest of my team had previously used its counterpart, which is Foundations. I was only behind in Just Words. I was not behind in any of our other curriculum. I was on pace with the rest of the 4th grade teachers for CKLA and Group Math. When questions were asked in PLC and planning meetings before admin started sitting in, our team lead would push off the topic, saying she didn't have time to teach Just Words in the morning because they're quite extensive lessons, and 40 minutes is not enough time. 2 of my team members use this time in the morning where we're supposed to be doing Just Words. They use this time to do reflex math, cursive, and mentor sentences instead of Just Words. Once admin started intervening in our PLC and planning meetings, when those 2 team members were asked when they teach Just Words, my team lead stated that she picks and chooses what skills her students need and then teaches it how she sees best. At this time, Crooks and Sales were at the end of Unit 3, Chapin was on Unit 4, and I was at the beginning of Unit 3. So I was not even a full unit behind the rest of the 4th grade team.
So in this, the paragraph says, on October 10th, you were not using the district-required curriculum tool, Just Words. In the team meeting, you were behind on the teaching units compared to your colleagues.
Yes.
So that would be an accurate statement?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I was at the beginning of Unit 3, 2 team members were at the end of Unit 3, and another team member was in Unit 4.
In addition, it's been noted that you are behind in week 10 due to not teaching the curriculum since the beginning of the school year as required.
The only thing I was behind in was Just Words.
Right, and I think that's what that's talking about.
Okay.
It was also noted on October 10th that your students had fewer assessment grades entered into the Forefront system in comparison to their counterparts.
Right. I cannot speak to how many grades my counterparts had in Forefront. I do know that we take grades on the same assignments as we work together to form out a rubric for each assessment. The lead teacher and the team leader are responsible for putting like the scoring guides and the points into the Forefront system. As of Friday, October 28th, I had added all assessments that had been put into the Forefront system into my classroom gradebook and had input all of my students' scores. October 13th marked the end of the first quarter, and my students had the same amount of grades as my counterparts.
On what date? October the what?
October 13th marked the end of the first quarter.
Right, but you said you were caught up on what, the 28th?
28.
I said as of Friday, October 28th, because every day during my prep period, I go and see if there's new assessments, because I have to pull them from either the lead teacher or the team lead's folder and pull them into my grade book. And then I have to input my students' grades. So as of Friday, October 28th, I had pulled all assessments that were available to me to put into my grade book.
Is it a fair statement to say that you had not taught that part of the curriculum since the beginning of the school year?
It is, yes.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything in there. There was some communication between our lead teacher and myself that I was really struggling, because it is a very large piece of curriculum. There are a lot of moving parts. It is very overwhelming. So I had conversations with my lead teacher a few times, and I don't remember what day I had. I don't remember what day, I don't have what day it was that she came in and kind of helped me break it down and pull it apart and work through it and kind of help me teach a lesson with this curriculum. But once she did, like I said earlier, once I understood the curriculum and knew what to do with it, I taught it with Fidelity, which is a building level non-negotiable.
When would you say that she came in and did that? What?
Well, there's an email in reference to specifics related to that.
Because I'm gonna.
Not between myself and Ms. Fournier, there isn't. That was conversations.
Did that happen in August?
I believe it was early September.
So
mid-September.
You started teaching it?
Yes.
Then in early September?
Yes.
But this says that on October, it has been noted that you're behind in week 10 due to not teaching the curriculum since the beginning of the school year. That means you missed 2 weeks of teaching it, or you missed 6 weeks of teaching it, or 8 weeks?
Our units are approximately 10 days apiece. So I was at the beginning of Unit 3. 2 other team members were at the end of Unit 3, and the 4th team member was in Unit 4. So I was less than 10 days behind.
Okay. In your viewpoint, you were less than 10 days behind? Yes.
According to the curriculum, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to read paragraph 2, just like Dr. Murphy did for the record on paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 says, Ms. Tarvin, it is not appropriate to be unprepared for the instructional day, unprepared for team meetings, to act unprofessional, or to continue to not teach the required standards and curriculum of 4th grade. Do you have a response to the accusation there of unpreparedness for either team meetings or your instructional day?
Not beyond what I've already stated.
Okay. So let me catch up with where you are in your handouts, because you're about midway through.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Approximately on the pacing side, which starts with week 1, policies and procedures. I just wanted to have it noted that Just Words was not paced out. CKLA and Eureka Math were both paced out, but Just Words was not. So that is the reason that that is in there.
You're saying there wasn't like a pace guideline?
No, there was no discussion as to whether or not, to when we would be beginning that, that curriculum, not until admin started intervening on our PLC, because like I said a moment ago, whenever I'd bring it up to the team lead, it would kind of get pushed to the side. And she would always tell us that she doesn't have time to teach that curriculum, and that they use that time of the morning to do cursive, reflex math, and mentor sentences. And then when admin started coming in and helping with our PLC meetings, they told admin that they pick and choose the skills out of the Just Words curriculum that they feel that their students need, and then they teach them how they see fit.
And we're not ignoring, or we're just catching up by looking at our notes and hearing what you're saying. So we're going to, quiet does not mean we're not engaged.
Just thinking.
We are just reading And we want to be sure we ask all appropriate questions.
Because everything in a 4-year timeline is before you for the first time, and you've had
Correct, we have had
less than a half
no.
hour to digest it.
Right, so this is all new stuff to us. Okay. So, let's talk about, paragraph 3 just says that you were directed to comply with the Fountain Lake School District policy, which everybody knows that. You are held to those standards. What is
All
it?
employees sign it, they look
Right.
at it.
Right, all the handbooks and code of ethics.
Along with appropriate use policies.
Correct. And we're reading.
You can either read all of paragraph 3 of the bullets.
On paragraph 3, the bullets, well, it says, you're directed to comply with Fountain Lake School District policies fully from the elementary staff handbook and code of ethics standards 2. Students should have access to a positive learning environment with clear expectations, organized for their optimal learning experience, and continue throughout the learning day. As a PLC team member, you should be prepared with the necessary material and deliver instruction as required by our school expectations. Your actions are in direct violation of the following policies. FLSD Personnel Policy 3.17, insubordination, means the willful disregard of a supervisor's instructions or the refusal to obey a lawful order from a supervisor. Code of Ethics Standard 2, an educator maintains competence regarding his or her professional, proactive, inclusive of professional and ethical behavior, skills, knowledge, dispositions, and responsibilities relating to his or her organizational position. And the third violation would be the elementary staff handbook under staff expectations. So as you're addressing these things, we're getting a picture through the timeline and through some of these bullet points that you had a struggle with being prepared, whether it be for team meetings, whether it be for your instructional day, and there have been instances of unprofessional behavior that have been documented or discussed with you. Do you have any evidence or comments to the contrary on that, to refute any of that?
Beyond what I have stated prior to this, no.
Go ahead, Louis.
One of the questions I have, it says in the future, if you have questions concerning the selection, planning, and use of curriculum materials, you should seek guidance from the building principal. Did you have a problem with the curriculum that you were given to use?
Originally, yes, because like I said, I was unfamiliar with Just Words, and had conversations with my lead teacher about needing help basically unpacking it and figuring out how all the pieces move.
So it wasn't so much the problem with the selection of the curriculum, you didn't know how to present that curriculum?
Correct. And one of the, like I said, one of our building level non-negotiables is teaching our curriculum with fidelity. So I wanted to make sure that I was delivering the curriculum the way it was meant to be delivered.
Did you guys have access to that prior to the opening of school? Or did you come in late?
I was going to ask the question, how did the other teachers learn it or prepare?
They had previous experience with Foundations, which is the level right below Just Words. Same concept, same pieces.
And how did you not have any experience with Foundations?
Because it was not part of our curriculum. I taught 4th grade and we used Lucy Hawkins, and it was not part of our curriculum.
Okay, so you're saying this were before you were in that grade level?
No, even prior to this year is the first year we've had Just Words.
Right. But you've had foundations somewhere
I think
in the building.
that stops at 3rd grade.
Okay, so some of these other teachers had
They had
had
experience
lower
with-
grade experience,
Yes,
is what you're
yes.
saying. And foundations has similar,
And you had mentioned to me, I don't think we had foundations at the time you were in first grade, correct?
Correct. My 2 years in 1st grade was Lucy Calkins, and we did not have access to foundations at that time, no.
okay. So we've talked about, let's talk about paragraph 4. Simply says, should you fail to follow these directives, it could adversely affect your contract of employment with the Fountain Lake School District and could result in a recommendation for termination or non-renewal to the superintendent. And I have a question. Is Mr. Campbell still here?
He went to the bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah, he had stepped
Is
out.
this letter that we received, so this was mailed to you dated November 1st with, or given to you, or?
So the original timeline on that was Mrs. Curry and Mr. Campbell provided that information. What you
Oh, I
have
see
before
on
you is
October
the final
20th.
notice.
Okay.
No, October 30th.
It says assigned in Fountain Lake Elementary School Principal Ms. Katie Curry's October 20th and October 30th letters. Okay.
Yes. So there was 2 different letters presented to her, Mr. Campbell present, Katie present,
Okay.
her present,
Okay.
and those
Yes,
were
October
presented on
20th.
different dates. And then what I did was take the summation of the
Okay.
information, formulate a single letter to notify her of the district's decision to move forward and her
Okay.
rights to have asset aspect.
And it's combined so that, because we had to number the paragraphs
Right.
according to the policy. So
Gotcha.
that's why you have the number of paragraphs.
Okay.
I just have a question, sorry. You moved to 4th grade in 21, May of 21.
From
Yes.
first to fourth.
Okay,
Yes,
so
I think
So you were in first
August
grade
of
before that.
21 through May of 22, you were in 4th grade?
Yes.
And you didn't use foundations then?
Correct.
What did you use?
We used Lucy Calkins,
Okay,
What grade were you in before that?
1st grade.
okay.
But you used it there.
Lucy Calkins.
No,
I've
they
never
didn't have
touched.
foundations.
I have never
Foundations
touched
have
it.
not been used.
It was used 2nd grade. It may be used now for kindergarten and 1st grade, but it was only 2nd grade and 3rd grade. And it wasn't until, I think it was the year I moved to 4th grade, when the lower level grades got foundations.
So how did your peers have that? They came from they
Because,
came from 2nd and 3rd grade,
Yes.
all of them?
One of my team members moved to 4th grade last year from 2nd grade,
Okay.
and 2 other team members moved from 3rd grade this last year to 4th grade. So they had all had the opportunity to use and teach foundations.
But not just words.
No, but they're the same company,
Just-
the same.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right. And so, what did you, were you proactive in attempting to learn it?
Yes.
In what way?
I had had several conversations with Ms. Fournier about unpacking it and looking at it and having her help walk me through it. And it was just based on her availability to get to me to,
She's the lead.
yes, sir.
And do you have that anywhere on the you're
I
asking for like
don't.
a different book?
That
but-
was all through just conversation, passing in the hall. But like I said, when I asked my team members where to start and what to do, they just kind of kept, our team lead would just kind of push it off and say that they didn't have time to do that. And then they would turn around and tell admin that they were already doing it.
Did you talk to admin about her pushing you off that way, or no?
No, I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. It was a new
Yes.
team, new team lead. We already weren't working well together, so it was kind of just go with the flow and not make anybody mad.
So did Ms. Holland start pushing into your room?
Yes,
Um,
during wind time. Because one of the allegations is that I was not teaching lessons during wind time. So I asked her if she would write that letter. She was in my room for 30 minutes every day during wind time, helping me pull groups.
Did she know when you were coming in there? Did you know what day she would be in there?
She was in there daily.
So when Mrs. Holland is helping with the kids on their Chromebooks,
She would either monitor kids on Chromebooks,
so
help.
the kids on their Chromebooks.
I'm sorry?
That was the accusation that.
Right, kids are required to be on their.
Individual instruction.
Yeah, kids are required to be on their Chromebooks during Lynn time because they're required to meet 30 minutes of iStation per day. So it's not uncommon for students to be on their Chromebooks during Lynn time, working on that iStation until either they transition out to a different intervention or a different therapy group, or I pull them for my small groups.
I thought the accusation alluded to the fact that you were behind your desk at the time that the observation occurred. Is that not correct?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that that was a part of our discussion on the support. It's hard to provide individualized support when you're behind a desk, not out helping children. Now, that was only a given instance, it's a snapshot in time, but we don't have enough administrators to provide snapshots, so when we see something, we think that the frequency might occur at other times.
Which is why I stated earlier that I would love to have more information on how long I was observed, how many days I was observed, whether it was in transitions or what it could have been. If it was just a moment in time, that is not a reflection on how I teach.
But it's also the reflection of an occurrence that could be a reoccurrence.
It could be. It could also be a teacher pulling materials from her computer and finding out which group she needs to pull next and finding what skill they need to work on.
On that given day, though, you were behind your desk. That was the accusation.
I don't have access to that, so I don't know.
Okay, moving on. Paragraph 5. It has.
So now you move to a different time frame.
There were 4 school days between my original meeting and write-up with Ms. Curry and my termination letter. 4 school days.
Because this is a different topic.
Yeah.
Could it
Paragraph
have
5.
not been presented at the same time?
The awareness may not have occurred at the same time. Just because you make a post on September 17th doesn't know that we're aware of it on September 17th. So we initiated another conversation on October the 30th.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Paragraph 5, unless y'all have questions. Paragraph 5, it has been brought to my attention that you made an inappropriate and unprofessional comment on Facebook on September 17, 2023. You are a representative of Fountain Lake School District and must take this matter seriously. The perception of your post is very unprofessional and represents a negative image of our school. And I'm going to follow it up because paragraph 6 still relates.
Well, Steve read that.
Oh, the violation of the licensed personnel social media and ethics policy 3.45.
You read probably into it partially.
I read the whole thing.
He read the whole
Yeah.
thing.
All of it? Okay.
Yeah. I think we were reading and listening, but yes. What say you about that?
The post was a screenshot of a chapter of the book I was reading. The title of the chapter really hit home for where I was at the time. Post was made on September 17, 2023. I'm not sure when the post was presented, reported to Ms. Curry, but it was presented to me with my letter of termination on October 30th. I was not given the option to remove the post. It was also a private post on my Facebook page. It was not posted publicly. Dr. Murphy alluded to the fact that I could have learned from this situation in our second meeting. He said, I'm going to tell people to give you a chance because somebody has to go to bat for you. He said, what I don't want you to think, you made a mistake, social media, you'll never do it again. You caught the drift of what you need to do to be an effective teacher, and you're going to be on your A game. And so give an opportunity to show someone, I think you can show them what an effective teacher can do. So he had even stated himself that he felt that as though I could have redeemed myself given the chance. Post has been removed, just out of personal choice. He also said It'd be totally different if it were a private page, but because the page is public, people have access to the page, so viewing of the contents of that page made that situation, whereas outside of the boundary of modeling, but like I said, it was a private post on a private page. It was not a public setting. And
So
you
how
can
did we get a hold of it?
a staff member screenshot it and sent it to Ms. Curry.
So, but
When
your
was
friends,
I'm not sure when it was sent to Ms. Curry. I can't see any of that information on the screenshots.
could your friends see it?
Yes, only my Facebook friends.
Parents,
Which might
students?
include parents?
Not current students, no. I don't.
Parents?
I don't ever add current parents or grown-ups of current students until the end of the school year.
I mean, it could be parents in next grade.
So can we find out
They're in the
when,
school district.
can we find out when Ms. Curry got this? Because if we're just bringing it up now, and if it happened, if we got it a month ago, why are we waiting until now to bring it up?
It was
That's
after.
my-
It was after the date had been included in that meeting.
Okay.
So it was separate in nature from the original, so we had the original notice.
So this is this happened between the 20th of October and
The notification to Ms. Curry happened between the
Okay.
20th,
So you're saying she didn't get this till the 20th at least?
after the 20th.
Okay.
At least.
So how many friends do you have on Facebook?
Couldn't even-
5, 150?
It's probably 200 or 300, 400
Okay.
maybe, I don't know.
So,
Just curious, the audience, because
Including
we're
the
talking about a private page,
Right.
and you want to allude to at this point that your profile at the time was you at your desk or you being a teacher at school, that there was pictures of your bulletin board on this same page, that there was also pictures associated with students in our school on this same page that you're declaring as a private page. Was all those things on this private page?
Yes.
So therefore, this private page was a reflection of you as a Fountain Lake School District teacher.
It's a reflection on me as a person, as a human.
and also
But you
whether
state that you are a professional educator at Fountain Lake in the page. That's your employment.
Yes,
All of that's present in the page, correct?
correct.
Okay, and so you got 300 plus people that you're friends with within our community and beyond our community. And so all those things are an accurate reflection. And it's very abstract when it comes to social media and social media posts. So really, the board has to understand from this perspective whether there is the latitude, and when you review the policy and you're reflecting yourself as a teacher in an educational setting, you don't have the ability to separate your personal life from your professional life if you choose to place your professional life on your personal page. So therefore, per the policy, that becomes reflective, and in the policy it alludes to, it's basically don't say it unless you're willing to say it face to face. And so the audience at that point in time is basically those individuals, and then those individuals further have the latitude to replicate that document, which is, I think, tagged or maybe forwarded, but ultimately what could have became 300 could have became 3,000.
No, it could not be shared, or, I mean, it could have been screenshot and shared around,
Okay, it
but
could have been.
through the confines of Facebook, that was not an option, because it was set as a private post, only to the people that I am Facebook friends with.
Okay.
Given that I'm being, that this is an accusation towards me, I'd like to recommend to the board that they look out against all faculty and staff members.
Back.
Nope, this is not about other faculty and staff.
Just recommended.
But we are here to address the accusations against you, and it's a collective whole. This is one piece of a collective whole.
Yes.
So if you were being terminated strictly on that fact,
I'd highly recommend that you give it to Mr. Campbell so we can review and investigate any other individuals.
Absolutely.
So what I will say on that, because you've pulled evidence that you believe violates the same standard. There's probably not a person alive that has not done something that they wish they hadn't. However, I'm going to say that back in September of 21, a year prior, you were taught to...
2 years.
Oh, yeah, 2 years. Gosh, lost a year. 2
Don't
years
blame
prior
COVID.
about liking things that might not be appropriate that are on, that parents or somebody else. So you had a conversation about using good judgment about social media. And I will just tell you, whether you're in the private sector or in public school or the government or wherever you work, you have an obligation. I don't care if you're just an individual posting on your individual page. In our world, that does not exist anymore. Our world says it's a great big wide open place that things can get shared and reshared and posted whether you like it or not. And we all have professional obligations in our jobs to act like grown-ups and not post offensive or whatever you want to call it, social media posts, okay? So you, from 2 years ago, this issue had been discussed with you. So you cannot say, well, I didn't know that I was going to offend anybody, or I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that, because there is a policy in place, it's in the handbook. So really, you can't say, it's just on my page, it's just personal. That doesn't happen anymore. Social media is what it is. It's a monster, it's a bad thing, but we all have to be careful and professional in what we put out there. And once you put it out there, even when you take it down, it may live in perpetuity forever attached to your name. So.
Can I ask a question that's not related to what's on these paragraphs or no?
Yes.
Okay. So when you move to fourth grade, no, from first grade to fourth grade, yes. It says due to collaboration issues. What were the issues?
Why did you move why were you asked to move, is what Cindy's saying?
I requested to move in my letter of intent that Mr. Campbell sends out usually around February. I requested to move to any grade that was available.
For what reason?
I didn't enjoy first grade. That's all there was to it.
So there were no collaboration issues with your peers?
We did not get along well on a personal level, but I feel as though we collaborated well.
And nobody talked to you that it was because you couldn't handle appropriately handle 6-year-olds or anything like that?
I'm gonna be real honest, and it's probably gonna be unpopular, but in favor of you, I'm not concerned with 21 and 22 because I have a letter that is all 23 and I have a effective and highly effective evaluation from last year. I don't think it's fair that we have separate data here that are not the same years, just to be honest. Whatever happens, I don't think this hearing based on this letter has anything to do with this timeline we're given is 3 years old.
The timeline stretches back 3 years, but if you go down to the bottom of it, it's the current time. And traditionally, when we bring something to you all, what you ask us is, well,
Yes.
is this the first time you've had this conversation?
Correct.
That is
You have-
true.
And so we
That is true.
proactively presented you with everything we had.
Agreed.
And I don't disagree.
In fairness
The
to all
letter-
parties, I have an evaluation.
Okay.
That was provided by one of the two administrators.
One of the two. Well, I'm just trying to be equitable. I'm not making any statement of where we're going, but
And I just wanted.
I guess what I'm saying further, if this were to happen again, I'd love to have a letter that matches what I got in an email. Even though if we ask for older, I've got a 3-year-old timeline and a 2023 letter.
Yeah. And
That's what I'm getting at.
I understand.
And we kind of keep pounding her on 21 and 20, and that's not in this letter.
It's not.
I think we have to look at this,
We're looking at a body of work, so to speak.
but, yeah, we're looking at this, but it also leads up, what happens in the past leads up to this.
I don't disagree.
This is like,
Nobody says my point.
I get it.
No.
I get it.
Okay, so, paragraph 7 is standard 2 of the Code of Ethics for Arkansas educators. It requires that an educator maintains competence regarding his or her professional practice, inclusive of professional and ethical behavior, skills, knowledge, I think we've repeated that's another paragraph, dispositions and responsibilities relating to his or her organizational position. This includes maintaining professionalism in all communications with parents and employees. What do you say about your professionalism as it concerns communication with parents and employees?
I feel as though my communication with all grown-ups and employees within the school is professional. Within the school then. Anything through PBIS, through email, through text message with any of my colleagues or grown-ups and my students.
So there is on the timeline on
That, can I give you a little bit of clarity in terms of
Yes.
what she's alluding to? The
Yes.
reason paragraph 7 is in place there is because the policy aligns the social media post being a reflection of communication.
Okay.
Because that post in the, if that post is viewed as a private post in a private setting and she's not an educator, then it's not viewed as an element of communication. But when there is parents and others that are tagged into the communication, it can be viewed as an unprofessional communication, even though it's not directly related to the individual who may be the part of the audience, but it is a reflection of the district because she's being portrayed as a teacher. So that is why paragraph 7 exists as it relates to communication with parents. Because she's friended parents within the educational setting.
Okay.
And so the post, the only way it would be considered to be professional if the post didn't exist. Then we have professional communication. But the existence of the post creates unprofessional communication.
Okay.
So that's why paragraph 7 exists.
Okay. So, in regards, I'm going to stay in October. And I'm reading down a list here. So, in October, it says that on the 20th, a disciplinary action meeting was held with the principal and assistant principal on teaching responsibilities. And the principal and assistant principal and a witness, not named, and that you refused to sign the acknowledgement. Correct?
Correct.
So you, under what reason did you refuse it?
I just needed to get my head on, wrap my head around what was happening at the time.
So it was an acknowledgement of a disciplinary action meeting. That was not a firing, correct?
Correct.
That was not a termination, that was just
Correct.
disciplinary action. And so you refused to sign that. So then on the 30th is when they brought the disciplinary action on the social media post.
Correct.
Met with the principal and district director of instructional services at 7:30 a.m. and brought a witness. Then you were sent home. And when preparing your room for a sub, there was no sub activities substitute folder, which is a required element. And when asking students where they were in lessons in the math and reading curriculum, provided instructional materials were not being used. Following this meeting, I was notified that her son was sharing with his teacher and classmates that his mom had been fired. Correct? Am I reading correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So, did you have your activity substitute folder prepared? Is that an accurate statement?
I have a
That it's in there?
subfolder in my mailbox that has our daily schedule, a list of students. It is not a detailed thing by any means because it's supposed to be for emergencies only. Had I known that I would not be there that day, I would have prepared a more detailed.
Of course, if it's for emergencies only, you're never going to know when you're not going to
True.
be there for an emergency.
But that's what the
right?
pacing guide is for, and the pacing guide is in my classroom, and you can see day by day where we should be and what we should be doing in class.
And then it was discovered that that the provided instructional materials were not being used. Is
I'm
that
not
correct?
sure what that is talking about.
So you don't know about instructional materials that are provided?
I know what instructional materials are provided. I do not know what instructional materials it is referencing that I am not using.
So the expectation of principals of admin is not to have a schedule made out if you're out, like
I have
a
a
detailed
day-
schedule?
If I am planning to be out, then yes, I would have had.
But if you weren't planning, let's just say you
I have a
got-
daily schedule in my folder in my mailbox. It has a daily schedule, has the pull-out schedule, it has a list of my students, and then my pacing guide is on my desk.
But is that the expectation, like they're like,
Yes.
put your pacing guide in there and then
Yes.
we'll figure it out? Okay.
That was my understanding.
Is that right? I mean, what we're alluding to is that she didn't have
A subfolder.
a
ready.
subfolder. Is she supposed to have a subfolder?
There would be should be a subfolder with activities for the day for all of the classes that are being taught. To expect a sub to come in and jump in and pay a tracing guide and
No.
take off the keys, but it's not what we're going to expect.
Okay. On October 27th, there was an email to the staff about checking forefront grades. The principal was made aware by the registrar that your list of students scoring proficient in standards for awards ceremony was much more than others. I'm not sure exactly what that means, and it says, upon looking into this in forefront, it was discovered that Tarvin recorded her data incorrectly, resulting in students being in the progressing category, thus not on the awards list. In the principal's weekly email, all staff were directed to double check their scores in forefront and our awards list, as some data was incorrect and parents would need to be communicated with if their child was receiving an award. Okay, so explain.
That was a misread or a miscommunication or a misunderstanding on my part. I used my report cards that I had printed off, and all students that were in exemplary with the top 2 categories. I listed if they had reached a 3 or a 4 in any of the standards we had assessed, I had put them on the list because that was my understanding of what we were to do for the awards. But going back, talking to some team members, it was that they needed to reach those 2 levels in all standards assessed. So that was just a misunderstanding on my part.
And when that email went out, so the follow-up to that says, at the awards ceremony, no awards were available for her. I asked her teammates and they did not know of any. We checked her room and none were found. What does that mean?
I had already been suspended at that point, so I was no longer on campus to take care of that.
When was the award ceremony?
It was
Last week, right?
the
The awards would have
31st.
encompassed a pretty lengthy period of time.
But you wouldn't have just prepared them that day, right?
I had planned to do them on Monday, yes, prior to the awards ceremony on Tuesday. But like I said, that was after I had been asked to leave campus, so.
Would you say that most of the other teachers were preparing those awards that Monday?
I'm unsure.
what the rest of them are doing.
Is that usually when you did them in the past, the day before the award ceremony?
It's almost done.
Always?
In the week.
I'm still reading, so if any of y'all have questions while I'm reading. As a, yeah, that's the end of her paragraphs. Basically, the paragraph 8 just stated that the social media was inappropriate and unprofessional and negatively reflected on you and the district. And that you had the option for a hearing at this meeting. So that was the end of that. Before the board deliberates and comes back with a vote, is there anything else that you would like to contribute to what has been said?
Yeah.
Okay, I want you to finish with what you've got on your mind.
I'm unsure how removing a highly effective teacher from her classroom is the best option for the students. They have been placed with numerous substitute teachers who are unsure of how our classroom operates or how the curriculum works. They are also unaware of how most students learn best. Dr. Murphy highly recommended that I resign, but he told me that if I were to resign, they would paint a picture that it was just children talking and gossiping, and I couldn't put that on them. My only concern is my students. All I want is to continue to love and educate them to the best of my ability for the remainder of the year.
Does the board have any remaining questions or items that we are unsure about?
I've got a closing comment.
Okay, go ahead.
And then you can deliberate.
Okay.
Mrs. Tarvin, this recommendation was not taken lightly, and I do understand the impact this will have on you financially based on the conversation we had in our previous meetings. All of this information has been reviewed with our legal counsel prior to presenting it to you to come to this recommendation. This recommendation is based on the inconsistency or lack of providing a guaranteed and viable curriculum on a daily basis to students, management of student behavior in the classroom, and failure to prepare on a daily basis for students. At times, lack of entering grades, monitoring progress, and student rewards is unacceptable. Further, your disregard specifically for Standard 2 Code of Ethics of the Arkansas Educators in managing your social media page by posting pictures of your bulletin board, a profile of you as a teacher, and pictures of students. You also included threatening both parents and community members locally onto this page. In this same social media thread that reflects you as a teacher, you choose to post a statement, "Fuck the bullshit," and the perception of the post is very unprofessional and represents a negative image of our school and is unacceptable, leaving me with no choice but to recommend the immediate termination of your contract. At this time, the administration really has no further comments, and Board of Education, if you have no further questions, you could call this to a vote, or you have the ability at this time to convene into executive session for further discussion.
And we will.
Turn the floor back over to you, Madam
Yes.
President.
We will take this opportunity to adjourn into an executive session, and we will be out promptly. We will not be in there a minute longer than we need to be. So if y'all will give us just a few minutes to discuss, and I'm going to actually bring my computer with me.
Depends on who
Did
you
you
are.
realize we had kids in here still before you said that?
I'm sorry.
No.
That's
That's not-
post.
That's not okay.
You just did
I'm
the
sorry, it
same
doesn't
thing.
cut it.
And how is that
And she's the one who
acceptable?
told me it happened. Y'all didn't even, I mean, the kids
That's
already
all right.
know.
We are live again. Okay. Let me find. Had all kinds of. Okay, yep. All right. There is a motion to terminate the employment contract between the Fountain Lake School District and Megan Tarbin, classroom teacher, effective November 13th, 2023. All in favor, say aye. Aye. There are none opposed. That motion is carried 5-0. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Are you going to executive session?
Oh, yeah, we are.